Hello, hello. I think this might be working. Perhaps. Not yet. Not yet, it's not. Soon, though. Oh, it is working. It's working. Okay. It's working. Okay. So, since it's working, I think that we should get into our first story. Let's create a little guy. Nobody's here yet to tell me what this guy will be, so I'll create the guy myself. I do not have a drawing tablet. Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna delete that. You can probably tell I don't have a drawing tablet just from that. I do want one. I wish to have a drawing tablet. I can't get one at the moment, so I'm gonna have to use the touchpad on my laptop. This is a little guy. His name is Jimmy. Jimmy is obsessed with one thing. Can you guess what Jimmy is obsessed with? You guessed it, or probably not. I know what you probably guessed, and it's probably not that. Nobody can tell from what I'm drawing right now because I don't even know what I'm drawing. And I didn't even have it on auto draw, so I think this works. It doesn't have to look good, right? Alright, fine. We'll draw it again. We'll make it look like one of the things, and make it look good. Maybe. Okay, it didn't even guess. It's supposed to be... I'm looking at this now. I see it. I see what this looks like now. It doesn't look like one of these at all. It's meant to be a football helmet. Yeah, you probably couldn't tell that one, huh? Anyway, let's actually get into this. I didn't have auto draw on. He loves football, okay? He's wearing a football helmet right now. It's invisible. One day he's playing football. He has the ball, and he's running to the end zone. He's got to make it there. But something gets in his way. Something gets into Jimmy's way. He looks up. It seems as if the sun has disappeared. But no, it's not the sun disappearing. It's one of the other players. This guy is much bigger than Jimmy is. Jimmy is pretty terrified. This guy, he goes to tackle Jimmy. And, well, that goes about as well as you might expect. Jimmy instantly dies. Or does he? Because Jimmy, by some miraculous event, by some miracle, Jimmy survives. So there Jimmy is. He's lying there in the hospital, just wondering, will I ever be able to survive this? Will I ever be able to live? So he's in the hospital, he is chilling. He is good, he is nice, and he is chill. And somebody comes to greet him in the hospital. There Jimmy is. He's sitting there, looking all mad and angry, with one leg, and with one arm. And then a little goober comes in. He's a little troll. He's just a little trolly guy. And he's very happy about what's about to happen. He reaches over, and what he does is he grabs what's left of Jimmy. He yoinks him, and Jimmy's like, hey, let go of me. That hurts a lot. And he just yoinks it away. He rips it all off. And he eats it. You know? It's all gone. All of it's gone. It's liberated. And now Jimmy is just a head. And you know what he looks like? Jimmy looks like one of these. He looks like a basketball. So we're gonna keep him as one of those from now on. Jimmy gets really angry. And what Jimmy does is he starts bouncing and he smacks the goober. And the goober flies all the way back to the moon. And here's him bouncing along. He has enough. He starts bouncing and bouncing and bouncing violently until eventually he bounces onto the moon. And he smacks the moon so hard that the moon goes out of orbit, destroys the moon, and turns the Earth into chaos. And now he's just drifting about in space, wondering what life could have been. And then he realizes something. He decides he's gonna grow some eyes, so he does that. He grows eyes, and then he grows a mouth, and then he grows some arms, and he pulls out a little remote. He presses that remote and goes back 7 years before he started playing football. This never would have happened if he never played football. So he decides to go back. And eventually, later in life, he stumbles across the same guy. The same guy that caused all of this. The same guy that put him in the hospital in the first place. The same guy. So, Jimmy is angry. He runs at this guy, full speed, tries to tackle him. And the guy, he's not having any of that. He steps on Jimmy and destroys the entire universe. So yeah, the end. Our next story will be about... I'm not sure. Not like I'm talking to anybody here. But, if I could get somebody, please. I need opinions. I need somebody to tell me what to do. But hey, I guess one thing I could do. I could talk about myself. About my favorite games. Now, my favorite game didn't start... Well, my favorite game wasn't always the same thing. See, my favorite game started out as Minecraft. That's what this is supposed to be. Minecraft. But then I got bored of Minecraft. Moved over to Roblox. And I played that. Mostly, I played Adopt Me. It was the original one, where there were no pets, none of that. Just role-playing. I played that with my cousins. It was fun. Then I got back into Minecraft. And I also dabbled in Rocket League, but there's not much interesting to say about that. I got to Platinum, that's it. Minecraft, something interesting happened. Is that my friend and I started a new world. Originally, this world was for myself, me only, but my friend decided that he doesn't care. So he was going to join anyway. And I'm glad he did, because what we created was lore. We created lore to this. We created a story. Here's how the story turned out. Fighting. That's how it starts. A bunch of people. Okay, in space. Intergalactic fighting. There's a million people fighting against one guy. And this guy just so happens to be my character's brother. Yay. So, eventually, it's just me and my friend left. We're knocked out, we're hurtling towards Earth, and then we smash into Earth. And a little bit of foreshadowing here. My bones are sticking out, but I immediately heal them without noticing, which is pretty cool. Little foreshadowing there for a big, huge event that happens later. It's a big reveal. By the way, we wrote this story years back when we weren't good writers. I'm a better writer now. I could tell you one of my stories, I could read it to you. We can do that here in a minute, actually. We can read one of my stories here in a minute. Here is the story about the lore. Friends hurtling towards Earth. Boom. I heal, I look, netherite sword. I pull it out of the stone, or at least I try to. I can't do it. My friend comes along, he does it effortlessly. And then his veins turn purple. He starts to turn purple. The sword is stuck in his hands. He can't do anything but scream. And then I come along, and I help him out. And we throw the sword onto the ground. We look at it. What just happened? We don't think much of it. He takes the sword and goes about his day. We'd later find out that this is what we like to call a corruption. They usually lie in swords, and they can take over your body, control it. They tend to be pretty evil. Anyway, what happened next? I'm gonna try to rapid fire here. So, what's happened so far is fight, crash, sword. We train, and we build up a nice little city called Creeper Coast. This is a real Minecraft server, by the way, that we made. We just decided to add lore to it after, and it was pretty fun. Okay, what happened after the city? Is this. My brother. You know, the guy that kinda defeated thousands of really strong elite soldiers? Yeah, he decides to come pay me a visit. And this isn't a nice visit. In the slightest. No, my brother came to kill my friend and I. We survived the slaughter, and that was not acceptable. My in-story brother decides to attack. He takes control over my body because we can't have more than 2 people at once, so he needs to take control over me. He didn't have anybody else to do this with, so that's how it worked. So he takes control over me and starts charging up his power. It's a giant explosion that will destroy all of Creeper Coast. My friend chases him down before he can do it, but it's too late. He climbs up the creeper, creeper farm. He climbs up the creeper farm, and just before my friend can get to him, he jumps off, hurtling towards the floor, water, hurtling towards the ocean, and he finally, boom, explosion, destroys everything in its path, sends my friend flying. Luckily, it didn't destroy much of Creeper Coast. My friend survived, but my brother hardly did. We gave him a nice little beatdown. Well, no. We didn't give him a nice little beatdown. My friend ripped off the helmet that my brother was using to control me with, that his essence was in, per se, tossed it onto the ground and started destroying it. So that was destroyed, brother dead. And that was very eventful. That was not very nice. But something much bigger than that. Hold on. Something much bigger than that was about to arrive. It came about, I think it was a couple weeks later. And what happened was more people hurtling towards Earth. Might I mention, Earth at this time has 0 humans. So 0 problems, pretty much. All humans are dead. Every last one. And that, my friends, is nice. Anyway, more people come. More people to kill us. Guy comes down. He's like, whoa, 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 everybody, hey, hey, hey. You guys are weak. You guys are pathetic. You guys need help. We try to kill this guy. He easily dodges everything. Sends me flying. Almost kills me. And he trains us for these people called Nebula that are about to arrive. He wants us to fight the Nebula off. Why? I don't know. As I said, we weren't really great writers here. But yeah, these people called Nebula, they're gonna come here for some reason, and we have to fight them. First Nebula arrives. Very strong, requires the power of my friend and I to defeat them. And even then, this guy still gives up laughing after every single attack we throw at him before eventually dying. He might not have even died, now that I think about it. I think he might have just retreated. I'm pretty sure we didn't kill a single one. Up until the finale. All of them retreated. Anyway, we keep fighting these guys until another special guy arrives. He seems different than the others. He's just as happy and jolly and that high-pitched voice like, oh boy, it's so fun to be here. I can't wait to kill you. I can't wait. It's gonna be so fun. We're gonna have so much fun together. That kind of voice. This guy starts picking flowers. He doesn't want to fight with us. He doesn't like fighting too much. But boss orders him to. He doesn't want to listen to the boss anymore. He's on our side now. He's gonna fight with us. He helps us take down some pretty powerful people. Until the finale arrives. My character is trapped in a fleshy area where he quickly realizes is a brain. There's orbs everywhere containing information, but they all are weird. They're some random codes they need deciphering, some ancient language. He eventually comes to a little box-like area with a different color orb in it than the rest. He deciphers the code, and a video pops up. This video starts training him in a very secret, very forbidden technique. He learns the technique, bursts out of there. My friend, at this time, is using the corruption in his favor to help kill some people. I brew up some potions, throw them at people, and, the people don't like them. They're very special potions, not the Minecraft ones, not the normal ones. Anyway, finale comes. We kill most of them, except for the leader. The leader is gonna need help. well, we're gonna need help defeating the leader. That's where lost souls come in. Millions and millions of years ago, there was a massive fight. I can't really remember what the enemy was, but the good people were the lost souls. Most of them died. And in their fight, they created everything. That's when the Big Bang happened. That's what caused it. Anyway, yeah, select few of them survived. And they just figured out that one of the enemies survived, and he started the Nebula organization. So the remaining few come to try to kill him, and they do so relatively easily. And when they look over at my friend and I, they're shocked. Their jaws drop. They start shaking and crying, and they look at us. They say our names, and we're wondering how they know that. They tell us that we too are lost souls. We fought in that battle at the start of the universe. We were the top fighters in that battle. My friend was the lost soul of time. He can manipulate time. He can go back in time to pretty much whatever point he wants. He can stop time. He can go forward in time. He's pretty powerful. So as long as you can't get a good hit in on him, he can win anything. He can even stop time, which is limited. He can stop time only for a few seconds, but that can be enough to kill you. I am the lost soul of health. I can revive anyone. I can regenerate any injury. Well, except for a few scars that I got before really learning about it. Because I couldn't really control it there. Anyway, we lend each other a little bit of our power through some technique, I guess. And always happy. Well, at least for a while. Oh, wait. There is somebody that I completely failed to mention. He's not here. Yes. Okay. Cool. There's somebody that I completely failed to mention. His name was Corey. He came wanting to gouge my eyes out, but I made a deal with him that he could take over my body whenever he wanted, and I don't get my eyes gouged out because he was way stronger than me and he could do whatever he wanted.
Holy crap, you're in the mess.
Okay, I'm trying to do something. Nothing, I'm trying to do something. Yes. Okay, well, sorry for the interruptions. But I made a deal with him. He could take over my body whenever he wanted, blah, blah, blah. He's a corruption. There's multiple types of corruptions that we're fighting against all the time, blah, 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 all that. We never really finished the story. It ended with us being in retirement and a new corruption coming through, bursting through our retirement home that we built. Anyway, that is pretty much where it ends. Also, if you're wondering what other abilities I had the ability of flame, but I couldn't go in the rain. It hurt me severely. I loved being in lava. I could do that if I wanted. Also had, nature ability. No, it wasn't nature, it was the lightning ability. That one was a rare ability that I could sometimes use. Anyway. My friend had the powers of fire and ice. I think. Maybe. Fire and ice. Mostly ice, though. Mostly ice. And that is pretty much where the story ended. So, this video is not that long right now, so I'm gonna keep yapping for a little bit longer. Also, I never put on that YouTube video. I was distracted by talking. I'm sorry. Let's see, we'll put on... Let's see. You know what you want? Oh. Okay, we're gonna look up some Bed Wars gameplay. You can watch some of that. I'm sure you'd love to. Alright, and there you go. You can watch this video. Probably won't be entertaining without the sound, but I'm not giving you that. Alright? So, let me talk more. Our next story will be about a man. This man lives in a kingdom far, far away. This man is named Luke Skywalker, and he wants to become a Jedi. No, I'm not going to tell you that story. The story I'm going to tell you instead revolves around this guy living in Eastwood. The town of Eastwood is a noble town. Many of things happened there, including the great stabbing of 28. There's a guy there. His name is Greg. Greg wants to become a sword master, but his father will not allow it. He may not study the ways of the sword. His family is meant to inherit the wand. His family is of mages, not of sword masters. But dear Gregory does not care. He wants to become a sword master, so he trains behind his father's back. Eventually he is able to create a flame with his sword. He is able to manipulate his sword very well. And he decides to run away one day into the mysterious woods. There he easily slices bears and trees and does whatever he pleases. Until one day a dark mage arrives, and it destroys the entire village. Now keep in mind Gregory. He's not fully aware of this, but he does see clouds and tons of lightning raining down near his town. He's in the woods, but he can still see the town. And he decides to run over there, see what's happening. Dark mage. He hides. The dark mage finds him. He slices up the dark mage, but it does nothing. If only he trained in the wand, maybe then he would be powerful enough to defeat the mage. But nobody could defeat him, not even his father, who was the best mage that he knew. He would have to try hard with the sword to defeat the dark mage, but it wouldn't work. He played dead and the dark mage believed it. But just in case anyone survived, he placed a curse over everything there. And that's where the story begins. Greg is wandering through the woods when he stumbles across the town. In this town, there is many of thing to trade. He runs into somebody at this town. Urban Druid to Furbador. Urban Durfin to Furbador is a mage or swordsman. I don't know. He is, sure, he's a swordsman, much like Gregory. He's more skilled than Gregory, though, and decides to teach him the ways. They go on an adventure together, fighting goblins and ghouls and everything along the way. Eventually, they become friends. They go to a cave entrance where there is a god. They slay the god, and they go into the cave. There, they see little gremlins. They see little gremlins, little goblins, and they are not happy. Though they are small, though they are lacking in strength, they are also lacking in intelligence. They are lacking in pretty much everything. They have a little bit of stamina in them, though. They push Gregory. No, they push Gregory's friend. They push his friend, who I did not come with the name. Oh, did I? I don't think. I did not come up with a name for this friend. He will remain unnamed, as he is hurtling towards the lava at the moment. Gregory, he kills the goblin, and he picks up a staff. He's never used it before, but he has to try. He points the staff towards his friend, and he starts levitating. As it turns out, Gregory, he's got a special little power, I think, maybe, where he is very good at wizardry. So yeah, he probably could have defeated that dark mage if he had a wand. But he didn't. So now his entire family is dead. Anyway, they go on defeating the dungeon together until they come across a magic wand at the end of the road. But there is somebody guarding it. They get into an epic battle. Boom. Fireball, boom, fireball, boom, fireball, boom, fireball. A barrage of fireballs come towards Gregory and his friend. They use their swords the best they can to cut the fireball in half. They use their swords the best they can to deflect and survive. They can't manage to get to the guardian of the wand. He's just too powerful. He won't let them get near him. But the good thing about swordsmen is that they are stronger physically and they can take more damage. One hit is all it should take. Gregory holds his sword in his hand and looks towards the guardian. He holds his sword above his head and throws it like a dagger. It hits the guardian. While his friend is distracting the guardian, the sword hits. The guardian falls to the ground. Not dead, but hurt. That is just enough time to grab the wand and dip. The dungeon starts to crumble and fall right beneath their feet and right above their heads. And they have to get out of there quick. They have to get out of there. Otherwise they're going to die. Gregory uses the wand. He bursts a hole through the ceiling. And they get out of there. And then Gregory, he teleports to the Dark Mage, I guess. And the Dark Mage absolutely obliterates him. He immediately destroys his wand. And he immediately destroys his sword. And he starts choking Gregory. And Gregory dies. In fact, my friends, is the end of Gregory. That is the end of the story for Gregory. That is the end of Leon. So, dearest zero viewers, what is it that you thought of that story? Please let me know. Next story is about a guy named Ash Ketchum. He's a 10-year-old and he is obsessed with these little monsters that they call Pokemon. So, he collects all these Pokemons, and the first one is Pikachu. I mean, Pachu. The first one is Papachu, and the second one is Pidgeot, I think. No, the second one's Caterpie. And he fights Pokemons. He fights Pokemons and defeats them in battles and wins badges and becomes the champion. The end. Also, I think he might sleep with a couple of them. I think that happens. Next story is a story about life. A story about my life. A sickening, sad tale about the boy who has no purpose. About the boy who cannot find his way. That boy is me, and that boy has a story to tell. Except not really, because this boy is not involved in anything at all. Other than avoiding people like the plague. That is what this boy is involved in. Involved, not evolved. That is what this boy is involved in. And, well, that, my friends, is the entire story of this boy. That's it. That's literally the entire thing. So, I do hope you enjoyed. And I do hope that you have a great day. And I do hope that you will stick around for a little bit longer, because I just realized something. I have yet to read my lovely story for you. How is it that I forgot? Alright. Are you ready? Are you ready? Can you handle this? It is a lovely story about a detective, and his wife is dead. Oh no. I do like how it has turned out so far. Though it is not fully complete, it is very nice. It is titled Grief. It is by some guy. I'm not sure who. We will start this off. Let's just get in the reading mode. This is not much of a reading mood. We're going to get in a reading mood. Or not. You can watch. We can watch, let's see, The Truth Behind Minecraft's Strongest Player by Planet's Lord. And while we watch this, we're gonna read Cold, Alone, Scared. That's how most things are. And this was no different. Cold, dry blood stuck crack and frozen to a man's chilled hands. Smoke kissed the lips of the man as fire devoured his cigarette. Tears stuck as glue to his soft but ever so cold cheek. And he could only think of one thing. A murder. A murder not like the ones before. He didn't know those people of whom knew the victim. He didn't know of their empty hearts and frozen memories of this now corpse. He knew now what it felt like. He knew now what one wet and icy body sitting lonesome in the instead of a cold winter night's means. He stared aimlessly at his bloody hands, still walking as he did, and nearing the lamppost. Now, just seconds later, he was on the floor, looking up at the moon. On a normal night, a moon that was beautiful, begging to be danced under and rejoiced of. Not this time. Now it was a demon beckoning to the shadows, hidden away, lurking. The dewy ground fell under the man as his mind backed away, leaving him on the hard pavement, breathing quietly as he slipped into a dream. Where, I'm sorry, I lost my place. It was only 10 minutes later when the man was found outside of the police station, sleeping under a lamppost. A sight to behold, no doubt. Officer Jameson was the one who found the detective. Certainly, he thought. He must be dead. But no, the man, physically perhaps, was very much alive. But his mind didn't seem to think so. It was only a couple minutes that the young detective slept. His brown gown wrapped him with jacket, his short stubble beard being the luxurious fur around the collar. He woke when delicious tea was being brought out for him, nice and hot. "Oh, Gary, you're up." This was Jamison. I'm glad. A pause. I've made tea." "So I am," the detective responded to the first statement. The tea was drunk, solemnly and slow. Pauses were inserted for room to talk. "It's been rough. I just found out that—" He stuttered, slurring his words, unable to grasp the truth. "I just found out that she... I just found out that my wife was murdered." Jameson sat there, his gaze fixed upon the carpeted floor of the police station. It was not unlike anything he had seen before as an officer, but never had it hit so close. "Mrs. Stevens was a good woman." Jameson hesitated, searching for the right words. "I'm sorry." He looked down still, his gaze now on Mr. Stevens' shoes. "If your tea readings are anything to go by," he said, peering down at Mr. Stevens' cup, "then good things are to come. If that helps at all." Mr. Stevens offered a slight nod to that, even though he didn't mean it. "It's just hard, you know." She was sitting at home watching them. His pupils dilated to fill almost his entire iris. His body didn't dare move. He was frozen with not only guilt but also fear. A pit formed in his stomach, holding him in. After the longest second of his life, the adrenaline finally kicked him, putting him into the gear. He raced to his car, seconds ticking by like minutes. Eventually, though, he arrived at the scene of the crime. He sat in the car. Only the sound of his breath accompanied him. The car door swung open after a while, and after swallowing his fear, he went in. The once lovely home was now barren and dim. The door creaked open inward, letting him lay eyes upon the scene. Most of his things were confiscated for evidence. He lurched past a photo that lay broken in a frame on the mantelpiece. The photo was of his wife and him on their honeymoon. They went to a beach, Diamondback Beach. 3 more cigarettes were devoured by this point. 3 more cigarettes were gone by this point. Only two remained. A minute later, there was one. He shifted his focus now to the corner of the room where a dirty dog bed lay vacant. He turned to the stairs, where he stumbled back, not expecting to see what he did. A long car ride was ahead of the two now. The vet's office was going to close soon, and they had to make it. They just had to. As a man of the law, Mr. Stevens would never usually speak. Not usually. Now was different. His only remaining family was in the back seat with a bullet in his head. Don't die, please. Don't leave me alone. Please don't die. Mr. Stevens began to sob. Red and blue surprised Mr. Stevens in the side mirror. Mr. Stevens glanced at the speedometer on his dashboard. His jaw dropped when he saw the number. He quickly slowed and rolled down his window. Hello, off. License and registration. I'm sorry, I need to go quickly. You see my dog. I said license and registration now. The officer reached for his pistol. All right. Mr. Stevens hastily opened the glove box and gave the paper to the officer. He waited there for 10 minutes. 10 minutes and the officer still hadn't come back. To hell with this. Mr. Stevens put the pedal to the floor. The wailing of sirens followed soon. So what if Mr. Stevens lost his job? So what if he was fired and his life was ruined even more? As long as his dog was alive. The sirens kept getting closer. Mr. Stevens just went faster. Eventually, it got to a point where the old police car from 1985 couldn't keep up with Mr. Stevens' new 1998 car. Mr. Stevens knew the route, and judging by his dog's condition, he wouldn't make it. The little Labradoodle was gasping for air, and yelped suddenly. The bullets only seemed to dig deeper. There is no route that could take them there. Not to Mr. Stevens. Not to Mr. Stevens, however. It was reckless. He could very much die, or at the very least to be imprisoned. If there is no route, Mr. Stevens will make his own. Mr. Stevens did not know what was over the hill. All he knew was that it would save a few miles. Blue soon filled the windshield. The room went quiet. The world went quiet. And the car became heavier as the seats dampened. The dog had a sudden jolt of energy and mustered up a few barks. Mr. Stevens' breathing became quicker. Mr. Stevens tried to remain calm. He should do well in these situations after an officer, but after the build-up of stress, he couldn't hold it together. Mr. Stevens woke up in the hospital soon after. Officer Jameson greeted him with a basket of fruit. The doctor said you were showing signs of waking up. Looks like I got you at the right time. Gary Stevens always loved Jameson's soothing voice. It was one of the many reasons he thought of him as a brother. What happened? Gary asked Jameson. You weren't in any condition to be driving. I was scared you would do something stupid like this. Why, Stevens? Why did you do it? Jameson never called him Stevens. What happened? Gary repeated. I followed you. I watched everything go down. You ruined your life, you know, by doing that. That doesn't answer my question. Before I answer, you know what happened to Amanda, right? Jameson was scared that he would have to break the news about Mr. Stevens to Gary. Yeah. I remember seeing you in the police station, and I ended up here. You were just talking to me. Jameson recounted the events. Then you rushed off. I think to get your dog. You were pulled over and then rushed off over a hill like some madman, and I brought you here. Your dog, too. But they couldn't do much. They sent him to an emergency vet all the way down in Dexton, and they're working on him there. He's learning to walk again. Gary recoiled and slumped in his chair. Damn, did all that? But, wait, Shadow's okay. Yeah, he can hardly walk, but he'll leave. But he'll live, though. Shadow was only 4. Gary trained Shadow to sniff out drugs, and he learned quickly. On one of the days of sniffing out drugs, Shadow headed towards an old shed on the suspect's property, and there, waiting for him, was the owner of the barn, I think is what that was supposed to say. Oh, owner of the worn shed. Okay, there's one line with the word worn on it. Owner of the worn shed. He met Shadow with a gun. A shot to the leg and 2 to the body. All shots barely missing his organs. He was later dubbed the Phoenix by many who heard the story. Much like a phoenix, he could always bounce back. How long have I been here? A week. The stress was too much for you. Did they find the freak that killed her? Jameson paused at this. He didn't want to let Gary down. I'm sorry. Jameson looked at Gary with sadness. It's still unsolved. It's likely to be a cold case. We have no leads. I'll do it. Gary began to leave. Hold on, Gary. You'll only make it worse. Maybe for someone else it would be. I want to bring that man to justice myself. Gary, the trauma, the memories, it'll destroy you. I'm doing it. Gary left. The room grew cold. The air conditioner buzzed its song. The fruit in the tightly weaved basket seemed to rot away. The world was falling apart at the seams. Jameson couldn't handle it. Gary would get himself killed if he went through with this. He needed help. Help to see the truth that it's impossible, an unsolvable case that may only be brought to justice by a confession. It couldn't be done. 0 leads, no motives, no mess left behind. The criminals seemed to have completely vanished. Jameson quickly started after Gary, but he was gone. The streetlight outside buzzed its brilliant light upon the cold concrete. The bakery yielded no help. The next window, nothing. Gary was gone. Jameson flopped onto the bed of the hospital and crunched on a rotten apple from the basket. He clicked the familiar click of his walkie-talkie and called Gary Stevens. A crackle came from the bed. A black rectangle also lay upon the sheets. Gary Stevens had disappeared into the night, much like the criminal. The next few hours ticked by like days. Gary must be found before the news of a 25-year-old white male with short hair, brown beard, and blue eyes, and a rough mustache was found dead on the side of the road was announced. Jameson had studied psychology for a year before realizing he wanted to become a detective. So he knew best. Gary knew this. Gary knew that Jameson was right. He knew but went anyway. Every store nearby was searched. The golden bells that rang through the night seemed to form a slow, sweet song. One that could make anyone perk up. A song that, if sped up, could get anyone's heart racing. A song that makes you feel as if you were in an action movie, just by listening. At the rate Jameson was going, it was the latter. Not a single one. None of the stores held the glistening prize of the gloomy fire in the night that was Gary. The next few days blended together. No stores, no bars, no building. Jameson went in. Is there even a mere clue of where Gary went? On the fifth day, Jameson began to feel ill. A horrible sickness that effectively paralyzed him. The search would have to be halted. Meanwhile, Gary smoked behind a club 2 states over. He had cracked open a chest full of clues and was digging through evidence. He narrowed down 100 suspects, none of which had any motives that made any sense. At the club, he hoped to find Erica Hem, a former dorm mate of Miss Stevens, before the two got into an argument and switched dorm mates. They then went on to become mostly friendly rivals, constantly competing for the better grade and to see who would become more successful. Mrs. Stevens would go on to win this feud after Erica was caught cheating on her boyfriend and got addicted to drugs. Now, years later in her late 20s, she still went clubbing. There was little evidence against her, but the same could be said about every other suspect. Stevens gave up. He was searching for days and still no sight of her. Gary, walking into the bar. Gary walked into the bar to grab a drink. He had not had any alcohol for a long time, but now was the time to finally have some. After a little bit of time, Gary grew wary. The loud music and alcohol had his head pounding. He stumbled into the bathroom and rested his arm on the sink. In the corner of the mirror, he saw something. There was a girl standing there. Mr. Stevens began to speak, but he quickly realized that something was off. The girl appeared unmoving and pale. It may have just been because of shock, but the bar seemed to grow quieter. Suddenly, a loud bang sounded through the night. The bang startled the already shocked Gary. While stumbling back, while attempting to step back, he twisted his foot the wrong way and hurtled towards the ground. Almost immediately after touching the wet and sticky bathroom floor, Gary blacked out. When he awoke, he looked around and soon recognized that he was in a jail cell. A thumping clutched onto Gary's head, and he stumbled into the bars, lightly grasping the steel. "Why am I here? And what was that bang?" Gary said, sounding very concerned. An officer stepped forward, a serious look on his face. "Mr. Stevens, you were filed as a missing person and believed to have gone here to Colorado. We now have suspicion that you have unintentionally killed Erica Hem after drugging her." "And how did you come to that conclusion?" Stevens asked, suddenly attaining a serious tone. "We rushed into the bathroom of the bar to see you and Erica on the ground. Erica was declared dead, and you were found to have a high blood alcohol level." "I don't see what you're getting at." "I think you very much do, Mr. Stevens." "I do not. You have yet to answer my second question." Just a bit of a nuisance. That's all the bang was." "And what did that nuisance do?" "We're getting a bit pushy here, don't you think, Mr. Stevens? If I'm being put into custody, then I should know every aspect of what happened." That man had no relation to your crime, Mr. Stevens." "It sounded like a gunshot. Did you—" Enough questions, Gary. Gary, until now you've been calling me Mr. Stevens. I think we should go. You wait in custody until Wednesday. Iron doors slammed shut. The room grew dark. A sudden and eerie silence made its presence known. Gary looked beyond the bars and had a fleeting moment of regret for even starting this search. He stifled that thought completely, quickly hating himself for even thinking that. Every step is a crucial part to the process of finding out who the murderer is, including all of the failures. Stevens had to admit, though, that he should not have been pushy. It might make him look worse. The days passed slowly and dreadfully. Most of Mr. Stevens' day was spent sulking around his cell, and grieving over his drowned wife. As he thought about this, he realized something. He was too blinded by grief and trauma to notice it before, but now that he has had time alone to think, he realized something about the killer. They had a key to the house, and intent to kill. Something Mr. Stevens feared was that this was just a burglary gone wrong. The dog wailed on, and Amanda Stevens awoke, stumbling upon the intruder when she investigated Shadow's mysterious behavior. Something else puzzled Mr. Stevens as well. When the police examined the house, they found no blood. Shadow was always ready to attack, so why not now? The reasons Mr. Stevens came up with, though he dreaded the thought of, was that the murderer was a family member. This didn't feel right to Gary, and not just because he didn't want to believe that someone he knew so well would cause him this pain, but something else. Something was off. No blood. Shadow didn't attack. Shadow isn't faster than a gun. Shadow couldn't attack. Blood from Shadow. The police said no blood. Shadow was left there. Why would they leave him? Blood from Shadow. No blood. Gary's heart began to race. A rush of adrenaline shot through him, his mind racing many possibilities, too, that might be true. The police never investigated. That, or the intruder came back. The police never investigated. Why wouldn't they? An empty house. Everything could be evidence. Everything taken for evidence. Or everything robbed. The police didn't investigate. The intruder came back. The police investigated, and the intruder came back after the police search. Two possibilities were either true, lie down. Trial in 2 days. Jameson wandered about in a daze, his heart pounding. He downed a few aspirins and tried to continue his search. He bowled out of the hospital, moving about as if he had finished up every bottle in a bar. His eyes swirled as if he had vertigo, and he thudded into the concrete, his body swirling. A paramedic happened to be nearby and helped him up. He was ushered back into the hospital and told to wait. Upon sitting on the blue seats, the only hospitals and dental offices seemed to have, a crackling made its presence known. Jameson's radio begged to be picked up. Its crackling cry for help. Jameson heeded to the cry and picked up the radio. We got a possible homicide over on Parkinson Street. Seems to be a young, white male in his 20s, small beard and mustache. No other outstanding features. Gray shirt, and no ID. Jameson's heart sank. He was breathless. Gary, this had to be Gary. The description almost exactly fit Gary, the only difference being a green shirt that could easily be swapped out. Gary is dead. Jameson was too late. There, in the lobby of the hospital, Jameson waked. His wrenching headache made Jameson dizzy, and he collapsed to the ground. Well, that is the end, so I hope you did enjoy,